Are we live, chat? I think we're live. How's it going? How was your day? I need to open the chat. For some reason, it closed on me, so give me a couple of seconds. Because I don't know how your day was. I'm just talking to myself right now. I may even be talking to an empty chat. Maybe no one is there. Maybe the stream didn't even start yet. Okay, here we go. I'm so close now. Just one more click. And we're here. Right, hello Nightmare. Hello Solid Slug, Bipedal Species, and everyone else. We're going to be talking about Steve Bannon doing the salute of Del Nazi. I don't know, like, can you say Nazi on YouTube? There was a time period where you couldn't. And if you wanted to have like an important historical conversation, you weren't able to. I actually do remember when YouTube was pressured to ban all white nationalist content. And a lot of leftist channels got hit by it. A lot of historical channels got hit by it. A lot of people were upset. Apparently, elections are happening in Germany. People are saying vote AFD. Here's the thing. Unless AFD manages to get 50% of the vote, it's not going to be able to form a government, right? And if they can't form a government, it's not going to be incredibly effective. But what they are doing is they're moving the overtone window, right? So like this idea that they're going to take Germany outside of the European Union, yeah, not gonna happen. That's just campaign promises. What may actually happen is that, sure, they'll get into power. They'll probably put a brake on some of the crazy policies that the left are doing. But they're not going to be able to revert anything. They're not going to be able to change anything. They're not going to be able to call a referendum on the EU. What they may actually do is just change the overtone window and show the German people that, okay, well, they were in power and fascism didn't happen. It wasn't worse than during COVID. They're not actually as unhinged as everyone wants to claim they are. They're still politicians, and it's just that they have different views. And that's pretty much what I think will happen when the AFD gets probably second place. If, they're really lucky, they may actually get first place. I would be surprised if that happens. Although there was a knife attack, another terrorist attack yesterday, I believe. And so that may influence the votes, but not by much. Because this is exactly what the mayor of London said at one point, and it applies to Germany as well. Terrorist attacks are part and parcel of living in a big city. And so, yeah. I see Mike Savage over there. Is that the Irish flag? I think it's the Irish flag. Apparently, J.D. Vance is demanding that Ireland releases a priest from custody over free speech issues. And if they don't release the priest, they will get tariffed. That's interesting. I would actually like to see more diktats from the United States towards Little China, which is Britain. And tell them it's like, okay, stop harassing people over free speech. Stop arresting people over political opinions. Saw one of the mail ballots today looking at the German language is like dropping a bundle of logs down the stairs. The German language actually is pretty cool. I find it very masculine. They speak weird. Germans speak like Yoda. They put the verb at the end of the sentence. At the end of the sentence, the verb they put. How they talk like this is. You know? Like, seriously, like if you know German, that's how they actually speak. It's very weird. Very weird it is, yeah. And they also have like pronouns for anything. Like they actually have pronouns integrated into language. The der, die, das. Speaking of Germany, look at an interesting article, right? Like this is very fascinating. Let me see if I can open it in a actual window. So German mother from Cologne, of course. I mean, threatened with fine. German mother threatened with fine. Let's see if we find this article. Oh, it's from InfoWars. Oh my goodness, are we reading from InfoWars now, huh? Well, if it happened, it happened. Like, let me see, what is their source? Oh, it's from a German newspaper. Okay, so this is from InfoWars, but it's from an actual German newspaper. So, like, this is their translation. Sorry about this. German mother threatened with fine for withdrawing her daughter from mosque school trip. I love the fact it's like threatened with fine. Like, either she broke a law and then you fine her, or she didn't break a law and then you fuck off. What is this thing like threatened with fine? Mother in Germany who decided to withdraw her 9-year-old daughter from a scheduled school trip to a mosque after the latest wave of terror attacks was reportedly threatened for a fine for violating compulsory schooling laws. Do you see how nice the bureaucracy is? Right? Do you see how awesome it is? They're not violating you for not letting your daughter see a mosque. No, like, we have a bigger law. That's what we really care about. And that's like every kid has to go to school. And you withdrawing your kid from that, you're actually withdrawing it from school. Like, we obviously don't care about the mosque and everything. No, that's besides the point. What we care about is like every children needs an education, and the government is there to provide the only education possible, because if we allow the people to do it, they do it improperly, and nothing is more horrible than an incorrectly educated child. It would destabilize the German state. It would not allow our democracy to function. And so the children must go to school, and they must go to the mosque. Any deviation shall be met with the swift hand of the German law that is like a fist gripping society tightly to make sure that no one does the wrong thing. Right? Like, this is the German mindset. I kid you fucking not. When I talk about it, people don't believe me. I gave the example that I said on a live stream to a couple of individuals here in Romania, and they too didn't believe me. There was like this little street in Germany. Like back alley, middle of the dusk, like no cars going left and right. And the friend that I know, like, he crossed the street, right, on a red light. He crossed the street on a red light despite the fact that there were no cars on the horizon, and everyone looked shocked. Everyone looked disgusted at the person as if he committed the most vile traffic incident in the history of mankind. And that is the German mindset, right? Like, everybody has to comply. Society has rules. Like, they literally have a rule for everything. Everyone sits in the queue. Everyone is managed. Everyone does the correct thing. And the moment you have the smallest deviation, that needs to be crushed down like a bug. The moment someone deviates, he's no longer a human being. He's like an insect that threatens the very existence and fabric of society. And when you understand that, you understand the German mindset. It's not about like Nazism or anything. No, it's their culture. It's literally how they operate as a society, literally how they operate their government. It's like, I am so glad I didn't go there. Holy shit. I crossed the street on a red light. And then the American version, crossing the street on a red light, it's like, but what if a child sees you? But what if you cross the street on a red light and little Billy sees you and he thinks it's okay, and you're setting a bad example for little Billy? That also triggers me. It's like, little Billy has parents, and if little Billy doesn't have parents, then we also have the theory of fucking evolution. I was a kid, I saw adults running on a red light, and if I was capable of knowing when and when not to cross the street, and in 39 years of my life I didn't get into a single car accident on the sidewalk, then maybe we can actually have a society where people can use their better judgment in certain situations. They are just following orders. That is so fucking true. That is so fucking true. It's true, V. Homeschooling is illegal in most cases in Germany thanks to the Prussians. Homeschooling is, like, you gotta understand, homeschooling is an American thing. And homeschooling was viewed that is something that religious fundamentalists and extremists are doing. But then liberals were doing it in order to avoid creationism and intelligent design. And then it was done yet again by the Christians to escape the wokeism. Because for some reason, when you allow public schools, the government just can't fucking help itself. Like, it can't just teach kids 2 + 2 = 4 and mathematics. No, it's gotta push values and ideas that is the role of the parents to push. Like, it's not the role of the school to instill values and concepts and morality into the kids. That's the role of the parents. Little Billy should have listened to mommy and daddy to teach him. Exactly. My mom crossed the street on the red light in Bucharest during rush hour. I keep telling her she's mental. I think you're right. In this situation, I gotta side with you, not your mother. Like, I'm not saying people should cross the street on a red light, heaven forbid. But what I am saying is that if you're actually in a situation where there is no traffic whatsoever, and the street is really tiny, and it's 7 p.m., it's dark, like no one sees, then you fucking cross the street. That's what I'm saying. Kids can literally buy beer in my country by themselves, yet I have never done it. You know, that's actually a good point. Like, when I was a kid in Romania, you could buy beer even at the age of 5. In fact, like, I was pretty young. I think I was maybe like 10 or 11 when my parents wanted to watch the game, and they would send me to the nearest kiosk. Like, we didn't have supermarkets then, we had kiosks. And I was there, and I remember very vividly, I was supposed to buy 4 bottles of beer. They were very heavy because I was young, very small. And I would have to buy 4 bottles of beer, and I would get to keep the change. Like, my parents didn't force me to do that, but they would say, hey, if you want to go, right, and buy us some beers and cigarettes, we will actually let you keep the change. And I like to do that because, well, I got to keep the change, and then I would buy candy and shit. But not once did I think about drinking the beer. I mean, I had the possibility, right? Like, I could just take the change and get enough so I can buy a beer for myself, and no one would know. Like, if I wanted to, I could literally just buy a beer or smoke the ciggies. But at no point did I feel the compulsion to. There was nothing stopping me. There were no rules, no regulations, no nothing, right? Like, there was nothing preventing me from doing any of that. But I didn't. Right? Isn't that more moral than being forced? Isn't that more moral when you make the choice, when you can actually have the option to do the wrong thing and you choose to do the right one? To be fair, the problem with smoking was based on the education that my mom gave. I remember that I was constantly trying to nick her pack of ciggies, because like most of my parents were smokers. And I was curious, you know, because like kids try to imitate adults. And so like I really wanted to copy my mom. And she kind of noticed that. She kind of noticed that I was trying to now steal the pack of cigarettes. So what she did is like she actually took a cigarette, lit it up, and then gave it to me and said, you need to pull really hard from it. Just pull as hard as you can, right? And after coughing my lungs for the next 10 minutes, I never wanted to touch that devilish thing in my entire life. And so when I went to school, and all the cool kids were smoking cigarettes, because like that was the thing, you know, to be edgy, it was to like try and emulate adults, right? So like we're smoking cigarettes. That was like the edginess of Eastern European. When they offered me a cigarette, I told them to go fuck themselves, like they're trying to kill me. And so that's the education that I got from my parents. And again, like I think it's more moral when you have the choice and you say no than when you're constrained, when you don't have the option, when you don't have the opportunity. But what about the other kids who smoked? Well, they should have got a parent like my mom. But what about the ones that have a parent like your mom and start smoking? Well, evolution is also a thing. Fucking hell. Like, this whole nonsense of, like, reorganizing adult behavior in the entire fucking society because someone out there is this hypothetical Billy that may be an idiot. Parents didn't drink or smoke. The smell was enough to drive me away from all of it. I see. Puff, puff, pass. No, the only thing that I smoked was the hookah. Like, that's a Turkish thing, right? It's a Turkish contraption. We call it nargile. Right? So I did smoke the hookah. And I realized that it has nicotine. Like, when I realized it has nicotine, I was actually surprised. I was like, what do you mean? To be fair... Hello, Roach. Welcome to the show. To be fair, I could possibly, like, smoke now if I wanted to. It's just that I'm afraid that if I start, I won't be able to stop. And it's very expensive, and, you know, like, you make a lot of smoke, you dirty the walls, the walls become yellow and shit. And so, I'm not interested in picking up smoking now. Hopefully my kid won't smoke either, you know? And hopefully he won't do drugs. I understand they're also a problem now in Romania. Your parents would have smelled either the beer or the smokes on your breath, and you would have gotten a well-deserved correction. Yeah, probably. To be fair though, they would be. I don't know how they would react. I don't think like it would have been a correction. They would probably just ask why. They would be like, well, if you want a beer, why don't you come to us? In Eastern Europe, like a kid drinking alcohol isn't that shocking. In fact, my newborn son at the age of 6 months, holy shit, I may be clipped out of context. He was given wine during communion in church. I was shocked myself. I didn't know that's part of the ritual. But when I went to the baptism, they also give communion in the Orthodox Church. And they gave him like a teaspoon of wine. And I was like, dude, is that safe? No, like legitimately, like what the fuck? I didn't expect it, but like, no, apparently it's a thing. Apparently it's part of the religious ritual. Okay, I mean, sure. So basically, like every kid here drinks when he is 6 months old. Is that a Catholic thing, by the way? Huh? Like, do Catholics behave this way as well? Like during communion? When you have like the baptism? The Orthodox give communion to all baptized. Yeah, but I thought it's going to be like holy water or something. I didn't think that is actually the blood of Jesus. No, they gave the blood of Jesus. Yes, they gave holy wine, which apparently doesn't affect the liver. Still, you know, I'm not super pro on safetyism. Kid is fine. If there was anything bad, I would have seen the effects by now. It didn't get jaundice, so it's all okay. The Catholics don't do it. Any religion that involves drinking wine is okay in my book. The Catholics have the first communion later. Yeah, I didn't know that. Like, that actually shocked me. I had no idea, but like, what was I supposed to do? Stop the priest? Like, all of my family is religious, except for me. And so, they were okay with it. It's like, I didn't want to make a scene. Yeah, I know that other religions do worse to babies, so like I'm fine. I smoked when I was a kid because I thought I could breathe smoke and then kill the ants. I stopped it when the ants didn't die. Really? They don't die? I think they may die if you put them in a enclosed space like a bottle or something and you smoke in there. I think that's when they die. Do you remember when Marlboro was promoting that sport? Dude, I remember when doctors were promoting Camel. I didn't live through that, but I remember the ads. And so, anyway, as I was saying, like in Eastern Europe, kids drink at an early age. Like it's normal to drink wine or beer with the parents during New Year's, during festivities. They will give you like a small glass, like a shot. You know, like this isn't something shocking here. But in the Anglosphere, like that's insanely shocking. That's mind blowing. I think in Russia it's probably even worse. Like in Russia, I wouldn't be surprised if they put vodka in the milk bottle. I kid, it's probably not as exaggerated. But like the more east you go, the more likely it is that alcohol isn't considered such a big deal. And also not all alcohol is the same. Like here, what can kids drink? Oh, they drink a little bit of wine, or maybe they drink some beer, right? In Russia, it's like the strong stuff, spirits, vodka. Good afternoon, Italian-Irish guy. Baptism is really all you can do since they took sacrifice off the table. That is actually correct, yeah. Well, actually, no, like, sacrificing wasn't that prevalent. It was, like, more of a paganist stuff. Most Catholic children receive their first Holy Communion when they are 7 or 8 years old. I think that makes a little bit more sense, though, because, like, the whole communion thing, right? What is the purpose of it and why does it happen? Because I understand the Orthodox point of view and I understand the Catholic either, as well, I mean. So, in the idea of communion is to wash away the original sin, right? So, like, because Eve was into snakes and she trusted snakes, she took the apple and then she used her power of femininity to give it to Adam, right? And so that's the original sin. And if you die with the original sin, according to the dogma, you go to hell. At least the Orthodox dogma. Like the Catholic have whistled their way out of it a little bit. Now you go to purgatory. But anyway, Orthodox belief doesn't believe in purgatory. They believe in heaven or hell. And so if you die with the original sin, you go to hell, right? So it's important to baptize the kid as early as possible so that if he dies, which is something that happened a lot of the time in the medieval time period, right? Like death in infancy was quite common. If he dies, he goes to heaven. And they also bury him in the graveyard. If he dies unbaptized, then he's got the original sin. He's buried outside the graveyard. Now, the Catholics, they're making a different argument. They're basically saying that, yeah, okay, like you can baptize someone that's 1 month old or 2 months old. However, they don't really understand what's happening. And because they don't understand what's happening, they can't consent. And if they can't consent, then it's not really a communion with God. Because like the communion isn't just like the ritual. You can't force the Holy Spirit into some person. Like they must accept the Holy Spirit. And so if the person isn't able to speak, isn't able to understand what's going on, there's no point in what you're doing. And I understand the logical argument of that, but I don't know the mystical argument. Like if the Orthodox are saying that the mystical power of the belief from the priest and the belief of his family and everyone else is enough to turn the kid into a citizen of heaven, right? Like potential citizen of heaven, then maybe that argument is stronger. I don't know. You know, God never reacted when Eve bit the apple and only took action when Adam bit the apple. Yeah, I'm starting. Well, the whole thing is also interesting, right? Because like God allowed it to happen. Like he's omniscient and omnipresent. Like he must have heard the conversation. He must have knew when Eve beat the apple. But like maybe he wanted to see what Adam does, right? Like maybe he was just like a moderator, like a Janny, like a forum Janny, waiting to see what Adam is posting. Like he saw what the snake was posting. He wanted to see what Eve is going to do. He saw what Eve is going to do, and then he waited to see what Adam is going to do. Catholic churches here in France only serve bread to the congregation. Only priests drink the wine. Elsewhere, they do from First Communion at 12. Yeah, no, here it's different. Here, basically, when you want to take communion, you gotta fast. And there's like a long fast, especially the one before Christmas. And then you go to the church. And you wait for confession. And based on the sins that you confess to the priest, you're either sent to drink holy water or to drink the communion. And this is actually like a way to shame, right? It's like kind of like a shaming tactic. So the idea is that you recognize your sin. The communion is secret, like no one can hear what you're doing, right? But then other people know that you're getting holy water and they kind of suspect what you did. And so it's kind of like if you're in a village and the church is the hub, the community, then this is like a way to shame people into being better. But in my opinion, it's also a way to promote people lying. Because if someone is so embarrassed that they're getting holy water, they may not even go to take communion, or they may lie so that they take the holy water. Usually they ask you stuff like, did you steal? Did you fornicate? Did you lie? Did you gamble? Did you drink? Right? And based on the sins that you have, if the priest considers them that they're too great, he forgives you. Well, he prays for the Lord to forgive you, and they sent you to take holy water. And you have to stay in a line, because that's the whole thing, right? Like there's a line for the holy water and a line for the communion. And you got to stay in line. And then you get the holy water, or else you get the communion. And the communion is a small piece of bread with the blood of Jesus. Anyway. Women. Pope Francis is dying. Yeah, I saw that. I looked at the current, what do they call it? The Papal Cardinal thing. Basically, the ones that elect the new, the College of Cardinals. Fuck. Right, I looked at the College of Cardinals. Most of them are right-wing, so we may actually get a right-wing pope now. Which would be very good for Europe. I personally don't know the power and influence of the pope in modern era. The previous one was not very influential. The one before him was even more weird. The Nazi pope. So the Nazi Pope, what is the name of him? The thing with the Nazi Pope is very, very weird. Because we didn't get that much of this guy, did we? So, like, this guy manages to become the Pope. And then all of a sudden he resigns. And this is, like, extremely unusual for a Pope to do. There's probably, like, just a couple of popes in history that resigned. Usually popes are for life. There's even, like, a whole ritual where they have, like, a little mallet and they tap him on the head 3 times to see if he's dead. And so you have a pope that resigns, and then the next pope maybe get the picture with him so you guys can see. El Blasphemy, right? The next pope who watches Instagram girls on Instagram, well, allegedly, we don't know if it was him or someone else using the computer at the Vatican. But the next pope, he manages to get nominated on the very first goes. So I think it was actually the first go or the third. Anyway, he gets nominated really quickly. The thing is, like, the way they nominate a pope is that they have the College of Cardinals, right? And the College of Cardinals, they go into a room where they're not allowed to have any electronic devices or contact with the outside world. So, like, all the phones, everything is being taken away from them. And they have to stay in that room until they nominate for someone as the Pope. And if it's not, I don't know if it's unanimous or majority, but basically, if they don't nominate the guy, like if they... I don't know the procedure that they go through, but like basically they have like a candidate and then people vote for him, and if it's the vote is incorrect, then they write it on a letter and they burn it, and from the outside you get to see if it's black smoke. If they nominate the guy with the unanimous vote, then they write it on a letter and it's white smoke, right? So this is when the cameras are all watching the chimney and they're saying, oh, it's black smoke, they didn't nominate the guy. But they nominate this guy incredibly fast. I think it was the first or the second attempt. Usually it takes days for them to get a pope. So again, to go back at what's happening, right? Like, we got this pope coming up. All of a sudden, he decides to resign. New pope walks in. This new pope is progressive as fuck. Like, on every single stance besides abortion, he is absolutely in line with the progressive agenda. Like, if you look at what the World Economic Forum is saying, he probably agrees with every single thing. Except abortion, and probably the only reason he doesn't agree with abortion is because it would cause a schism in the church. Like, this would be a step a little bit too far. But he was caught saying stuff like atheists can go to heaven. Like, he has criticized the United States for building a wall while saying no negative things about China. He hasn't said negative things about Islamic nations, but he's very concerned about the democracy in the United States. You know, like, incredibly, incredibly progressive. And so what's also interesting is that this guy, you know, like, why did he resign? Like, did he resign because of health issues? Like, no. He was fine for years after his resignation. And so the only thing that I can take is that either the progressive cardinals were basically threatening with a schism and was asking him to resign, or they blackmailed him with something. Like, that's another possibility. They had some blackmail on him, and then he stepped down. But it is, like, very weird. And so now we're at the point where a new pope is going to be elected, and the College of Cardinals seems to be very conservative. Anyone can be nominated, must be Christians, would be cool. Some Orthodox guy? Hold on, can anyone be... I think so. I think, like, no. Hold on, let me check. I'll ask Grok. Grok knows. Can anyone be nominated for Pope? Not just anyone. Any baptized male Catholic can be elected as Pope. So you can't just be an Orthodox. You have to be a Catholic and you have to be baptized male. However, in practice, the person elected is almost always a cardinal. This tradition was held for centuries because cardinals are the senior leaders of the church. It actually makes sense, right? If you're outside of the church institution and you don't know the rituals and you don't know the dogma and you don't know how to deal with people, this is atheists say, why do priests get paid? Because they do nothing. No, they do a lot of things. Like, they're the community leaders. Even if God isn't true, right, isn't real, the job of a priest is still very difficult. Like, you need to know how to manage people, how to talk with people, how to hold the ceremony, how to make it so that people listen to what you gotta say. It's really complicated. So to just get like a random and put him in the position of Pope, well, no one would recognize him. No one would listen to him. It would be chaos in the church. You would probably have schisms. There have been historical exceptions, though. There have been some non-cardinals or even non-priests. Pope Celestine V, who was a hermit monk. However, like, this never happened in modern times, and I don't think it will happen. But there is a requirement, though. You gotta be Catholic, right? So you can't have an Orthodox or a Muslim, thank God. And you gotta be a male. Right, so none of the can women be priests type of things, which is also interesting because now that I see, it's like, can women be priests? Right, this is something that they were trying to push, and the answer to it, if it was yes, then the next thing will be like, well, why can't we have a woman pope? And you know for sure like what type of pope you would get if you had like a female pope, which would probably be like an extreme left-leaning feminist, you know, like a Kamala Harris type of person. Communism was very much against the church. It depends what type of communism, though. In general, yes. In Russia, they outright banned it. In Romania, they co-opted the priest. So they subverted the church. When you went there to confession, to tell your sins, the priest would rat you out to the secret police. What if the Pope is Margaret Thatcher? Usually people like Margaret Thatcher, like conservative women, they don't try to break the stereotype by becoming priests, right? Like, they don't try to shake the foundations of society. And even if you have like one that's like Margaret Thatcher wanting to become that position, what will happen is that they won't elect her. Like, they would rather elect another cisgender white man that's a leftist than to elect someone like Margaret Thatcher that's a woman. Anyway, let's talk about the Nazi salute, because I got into a pickle. See, this is the problem when you want to talk about opinions and ideas. Like, it's very difficult to do it on the internet, so the Associated Press, Steve Bannon is accused of doing the salute of Del Nazi. And he says it's just a wave. Let me see if I can. Well, actually, I don't have the video. I saw the video. I saw what he did. He's trolling the left. Like, this is what Elon Musk was doing. This is what Steve Bannon is doing. This is what all of them are doing. There was that priest from the Lotus Eaters that did it. Like, there's a lot of people that do it. And the reason they're doing it is to troll the left. They want this reaction. And they want this reaction for several reasons. Number one, remember how the left was doing this specifically? Like, when the left got in power, they were doing things specifically to antagonize right-wingers. Like getting Lizzo to twerk while playing the crystal flute. Right? And if you complain, it's like, oh, so you hate it when a black woman does it. No, people hated it because she was being disrespectful with a historical artifact. If she was actually dressed in a suit and she was playing the flute, not a single person would have complained. And if she played it in a good way, then people would even applaud. And so, this is what the left is doing now. It's basically fuck your morality. That's what they're doing. Now, I made the video, and a lot of people were upset because I say the Nazis are far right. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. You know, you don't see the forest from the trees. Now, if I were to say that the Nazis are far left, then my entire comment section would be focused on that than to focus on the actual message that I'm trying to say, which is to explain why Steve Bannon is doing the Nazi salute, which isn't really the Nazi salute, but it's something close enough in order to troll people, right? Like, that's the purpose, is to troll. Are the Nazis right-wing or not? Who fucking cares? They're of an ideology that doesn't really align with right-leaning or left-leaning thing. They're authoritarians. That's what's important, right? They're very concerned with what people think. They're very concerned with suppression of information. They're very concerned with instilling the will of the state. That's the important thing. And the Soviets did as well. Anyway, the reason people in Europe say that the Nazis are right-wing is because in Europe, the political compass is different. In Europe, we come from absolutism, from the king holding dominion over everything. The Kaiser will is absolute, right? That's conservatism in Europe. That's right-wing in Europe. Left-wing is the French Revolution. Left-wing is libertarianism. Left-wing is democracy. Right? So, like, the political compass is different than in a country like the United States, which you guys started with a democracy and maximum freedom. So for you, that's right-wing. That's to conserve what existed, right? Like, to conserve the original state, which is the Wild West, maximum freedom, state rights, all of that. That is right-wing. For Europe, right-wing means monarchy, king, absolute power controlled into the hands of a couple of people that get to decide everything, including your faith, your belief, your role in life. Everything is decided by the government. That's right-wing in Europe. And this is why you constantly have like this, are the Nazis left-wing? Are the Nazis right-wing? Who fucking cares? Sargon did a vid saying he's not sure, but I am 100% sure he's trolling. He knows the right people will spurg out. And looks at the coverage. None of the lads talked about him for years. The Nazis were centrists? You know, I mean, compared to what? Like if you compare the Nazis to an Islamic theocracy that also has like the same elements of anti-Semitism, and you know that there's like entire nations that used to have Jewish populations and now they don't because they have like Islamic theocracies, like extremely strong Islamic theocracies. Yeah, I would say they're more right-wing than the Nazis. They're even more concerned with the every single aspect of a person's life than the Nazis were. So like you can actually be more authoritarian and more right-wing. When will I do a stream with Roman Salute? Do you know it's illegal in my country? Which is really interesting because the law is applied arbitrarily. Like usually if people do it, no one cares, but then someone does it before an election and the media needs to do a little bit of fear mongering and then they hyper focus on the guy. It's like, oh look, he did the thing. Thank you, Sadis, for the for the 5 Romanian memberships. I appreciate it. The happy people are a mix of right and left. Yeah, this is the thing that I don't like about but like I also don't know how to fix it, and I don't think it should be changed. I need to mention that. But it's one of the things that I don't like about well, not necessarily American politics. Politics in general, I guess. You get a package deal. Like you can't pick and choose, right? And so for instance, if you're a right-winger, you gotta be pro-gun, you gotta be pro-life, you gotta be, like all the stuff that right-wingers believe. There's like a list. And if you're a left-leaning person, then you gotta be pro-choice, you gotta be pro-LGBT, you gotta be pro-this, pro-that, right? And so what happens with the people that just want to be economically right? Like, they don't care about the cultural aspect. They don't care about the guns. They don't care about the, abortions. Like literally, they have no opinion on the subject either or. Fuck it. Or even like the people that, like, you have a person that's pro-choice, but they're pro-gun. And so they view that the current administration is actually trying to take their guns away. So they're going to vote for right-wingers specifically for the gun issue, but they don't agree with abortion, they don't agree with other things, right? And so like it's a package deal. You can't just pick and choose. But the reality is that most people don't come in a package deal. Like most people don't have this mindset. In fact, like most people have certain left-leaning ideas and certain right-wing ideas. There's a problem with politics when you are expected to run cover for people whose actions you think are bad because they're on your side. It's also like, I think it's the problem with the two-party system, right? Which, again, I'm not saying that it should be fixed. I'm just noticing it. In a multi-party system, like there would be a party that's like right-wing and is very pro-gun but has no stance on abortions, or maybe it's pro-gun and pro-choice, right? And this is in theory, like how things should be. In reality, they aren't like this. But like if you have a party that's like pro-gun and pro-choice, and then you have like another party that's pro-gun and pro-life, and then they form a coalition, usually the status quo remains, right? Like you don't have like these radical changes in society where you go from 0 to 100, from 100 back to 0. Usually when parties form a coalition, they're more in favor of the status quo, which means that like they basically the coalition won't sign on changing abortion laws, because it's like, no, our electorate doesn't agree with this. Like they're on the gun issue, that's why we're voted, and that's why we're in a coalition. But on other issues, you know, maybe next time you can get more percentage, so you don't need us in the coalition. Yeah, like free healthcare and free guns for everyone. That's also interesting, right? Like if guns are a human right, why isn't the government providing a gun to every single person? I'm not pro-choice. When it comes to guns, everyone must own guns or you go to prison. Didn't they have that like in Britain? Like every single person had to trade with a bow? So it's not really that outlandish. Two parties basically function as two coalitions of different internal factions. That's actually true. This is why I don't want to change it. Because again, like you look at something and it's not perfect. And you wonder, but can I make something that's better than that? And the chances are like maybe, but like why risk it? Because usually what happens, you look at something that isn't perfect, you try to change it, and it actually ends up being worse. When it comes to abortion, I'm anti-choice. When it comes to abortion, it's very interesting. I actually studied this topic in depth. Most people aren't pro or against. Most people are somewhere in the middle. Like if you actually ask like random individuals on the street that don't watch the TV, that don't go on the news, most people would say something like, complete ban is crazy because you have the people that are going to then try to injure themselves, starve themselves, do it anyway illegally, right? So like complete ban is something they don't support. But at the same time, what the Democrats do, it's like 1 day before birth or third trimester, is also something they don't support. And so like notice how in Europe we generally don't even have the topic of abortion. Like it's not even something we discuss. I've never heard it being brought up in politics. And I don't know the numbers, but I'm pretty sure they're lower than the ones in the United States. Because we have reached actual negotiations between people and we have arrived to a common sense. Yeah, the fact that it cannot be practically prevented. Again, like you're talking to a Romanian. So my country actually did force people to have kids under communism. It was Decree 203 maybe, or whatever. It was the kids were called decreței. So basically the communist woman, right, the wife of the dictator, she passed a law where she said that abortions are banned, condoms are banned, the pill is banned, and the reason for it is to raise the population. And what happened was that it actually, like the numbers of the demographics actually increased for 2 years, and then they started dropping back. And it also ended up with Romania having a lot of disabled kids because a lot of women did try to cause abortions. Like we're talking about thousands, if not tens of thousands. Starving themselves, doing like all the things possible in order not to give birth. And this is why the wife of the dictator was shot, actually. And I think like most historians agree with this take. Usually the wife of the dictator doesn't get shot. Like, she's either exiled or imprisoned or... Because, like, she's not a danger, right? Like, she's not a danger to society. She can't rally people around her. She's not going to start a political movement. And so usually, unless it's a monarchy, right? Like, unless it's like the possibility that her child would, right? No, like, usually they send her into exile. Or sometimes they even allow her to live. But in this situation, no, she got shot. And she got shot specifically due to this. Like, and it had to be on national television so people see that she's getting shot. They really hated her. Like, people really, really despise this type of, like, forcing them to do something they don't consent. Which is why I'm always in favor of persuasion, talking, negotiating, trying to find a middle ground, rather than to force good on people. Because if you force good on people, usually you don't get what you want, and then people want to see you on television. They want to see you on CNN, as we have, like, this actual expression in Romania. It's well, not in Romania, in Eastern Europe. I hope to see you on CNN. I remember when the Cold War ended and there were all the Romanian orphanages full of babies. Yeah, no, it was a horror, and it actually led to a huge baby trafficking ring. Because Romania was, like, one of the few places where you could actually get white babies. So you had a lot of Americans and Canadians coming here to do international adoptions, which weren't regulated. Allegedly, some ended up for organ trafficking, other for sexual abuse. It was really nasty. But again, you know, this is why I can't support a full-on ban on abortions. What I do support is, like, persuading people not to do them. Like, that's a completely different thing. Did the guy who took the shot specifically cite abortion or something? No, but, like, I have heard historians actually interpret it. Like, there were polling on the population. Like, the people who took the shot weren't, like, they were supposed to shoot no matter how they felt. Anyway, I wish I had the job at CNN. It is probably easy, and probably really good paid as well. I want to show you something badass that Donald Trump did. Let me see if I have it saved, because it's... Okay. This has to be the most brutal thing that I have ever seen Donald Trump do. Like, this is the most brutal takedown that he has ever done in his entire career. And this includes the first presidency.
That's good.
So he's talking about the federal mandate to prevent women, to prevent men from playing in women's sports. This is a campaign promise. People voted for him to do this, and so he wants to see it done.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Are you not going to comply with it? Well, we are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it, because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. The NC.
Oh, Dios mío. If I'm not mistaken, isn't the governor of Maine actual transgender? The audio is quiet. That's okay. That's okay. I'll try to amp up the volume. Hold on. We'll listen to it again. Hopefully, this is actually enough.
CAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. The NCAA has
Oh my god. And so, is the governor of Maine transgender? Because this is what some people are saying. Like, I know there is one governor in the United States that is transgender, and the reason I know it is because he got misgendered. I think it was in the Senate. Or was it the House? But they basically like the governor of blah blah blah, Mr. blah blah blah. I like that went viral. But like I don't know if it's the Maine governor that is actually transgender. Let me Google. Like I'm just asking to get a little bit of context here. Oh, is this the governor of Maine? I couldn't see in that previous video because he's talking to a bunch of tables. So like I couldn't see the person sitting there. Nightmare, thank you for for being a member for more than 1 year. Women's sports were a joke before men started playing. Only women's beach volleyball is really worth protecting. See, I disagree with that. And I'll tell you why. I think, imagine a mother that likes to practice sports. Like, she's going to encourage the children to practice sports as well. And so, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Sports for women as an ambition to like, exercise and work out, there's absolutely nothing wrong. No, so, like, I'm actually willing to spend my taxpayer money for women to play sports. Why not? If you had a daughter and she wants to play sports, like, why, you be against that? Let her fucking play sports. Like, she needs to do something to occupy her time. Why, you want her to do OnlyFans? Let her do sports. Jesus. Want her to be fat? Women's beach volleyball is best in countries that don't have beaches. Oh, I see. Women's sports means athletic women. Yeah, like there's absolutely no reason that I can think of why I would want to ban women's sports. And some people will say, yeah, but like women's sports at a competitive level, they're not as viewed, they're not generating enough revenue. And I'm like, well, so fucking what? At the end of the day, it can motivate other women to do sports, which is good. I'm trying to see if I can find another thing that Trump did. Oh yeah, so apparently he's going to demand that the White House cuts their subscriptions to 6 companies, which includes The Economist, The New York Times, Politico, Bloomberg, Newsfeed, Associated Press, and Reuters. And everyone is freaking out that this is censorship. How the fuck is it censorship? You're still allowed to read the fucking papers. Buy your fucking own subscription, you cheap fuck. You're in the government. You're in the White House. You're already gorging on the taxpayer dollar, and you want a free subscription to the New York Times? Fucking buy it yourself. Yes, I'm pretty sure the founding fathers, when they created the United States of America, they said, oh, it is a constitutional right for every person working in the White House to have access to the New York Times, to have a free subscription to Politico. Get fucked. Their complaints don't even make sense anymore. It's just some of the wildest takes. It's like, they don't even know what free speech and censorship is. Censorship is when the White House doesn't buy you a free paid subscription to the New York Times. Why don't they buy a subscription to my fucking channel then? I want every person at the White House to be subscribed to my Patreon. The government should pay me so that I can provide them free content. Make the enemy live up to their own rules. Let's see if men and women's sports is really sacred hill to die for them. I don't even think that this is like make the enemy live by their own rules. Make Karens live by their own morality. I am so fucking sick and tired of the moral busybody because it's literally, them demanding stuff from people, which in some cases may be absurd. Maybe it's something that can't be accomplished when you demand it from people. So how do we know that they're not demanding things that are absurd? Well, can they actually live based on their own morals? And if they can't, they should get fucked. V, why don't you become a woman and compete with women's sports? I may actually lose, man. I'm not that fit. I may actually lose if I fight against a woman. Politico is a rag. Well, I don't believe in such a thing like an amazing newspaper. I don't think like newspapers are done in the way that they used to be made. And so, right now, if you want to get informed, you stay on social media. You go on Twitter, you read the stuff over there, like you have access to first-hand sources. Like with the invention of the internet, the press, in my opinion, is becoming quite redundant. Think about it this way, right? Let's say you have a court case. Well, back in the day, if you wanted to see the court case, you actually had to go to the courthouse. You actually had to know the case file and then take it and read it. Nowadays, you go online and you see the entire court case. The fuck do I need the press for? In what sports do you think you'd have a chance for a medal in women's championship? I don't know, in a contact sport, I guess. By the way, apparently, wrestling. Wrestling is a sport where women can sometimes beat men. I have seen it happen. I think it's because of the center of gravity and something like that. Like, if the woman actually gets into the headlock, like, she can actually make it so that the man passes out. Very difficult, though, because she has to get into that headlock. But, like, once she does, she can actually have some advantage, like, on the ground. There was, like, this guy that wanted to show that he can beat women in sports. And he challenged, like, a professional wrestling, and he lost. He gassed out, basically. I didn't know that, but it's like really interesting. Yeah, like wrestling is one of the few sports where women have an... I don't think like they have an advantage, but like they can act... Nor that they can compete, but they can fare pretty well. Like with training, if they know what they're doing, they can actually perform pretty well. Depends which way you're facing the boobas. No, like, it's something to do with the center of gravity, I've been told. Like if you put a chair in a specific position, women can pick it up, but men can't. I'll probably make another stream. I'll gather a little bit more research, and I'll tell you what I discovered. There's a very real possibility that the absurd subscription to those publications are the only thing keeping them afloat. Nah, they're probably getting funding from many sources. Like the USAID, yeah, like they got funding from that, but I think it may be like 10, 20%. Like you would see them go bankrupt if that was the case. No, I generally think like they got funding from multiple sources. So like, yeah, USAID may be one of them. They may actually get money from legitimate subscribers and subscriptions. They may get money from other companies, right? It's usually how institutions functions. Like they don't put their entire eggs in one basket. Dude, there is a video on the internet with a guy losing to a professional wrestler. Let me see if I can find it. I mean, there's many videos of that. The thing is, like, I don't know where the match is. But I remember seeing it, I think it was in 2016. And it was like this guy that was against feminism. I wonder if this is the one. So he was against feminism and he challenged a professional wrestler at wrestling. And it's like literally the only sport where he shouldn't have challenged. And he lost. So I'm trying to see if Yeah, I don't think this is the one. No, I can't find it. I don't have it in hand. But yeah, take my word for it. Yeah, it's the leg locks basically. Like you have the advantage until you're on the ground, and she gets you in a leg lock. Like if she manages to shift her weight and get into certain positions, like you can't get up. I mean, look, there's people in the chat that are basically pointing out. Like, I saw that the bat wasn't very muscly. Like, look, I'm not saying that if you're not training for wrestling and you become like a pick professional wrestler, you're not going to win. But what I'm saying is, like, the average man versus like a woman that does professional wrestling, the woman probably wins. Because there's like certain breathing techniques, there's certain things to avoid gassing out. And there's also like the headlocks and certain things which the center of the gravity benefits the female form. I'm pretty sure they're not losing on purpose because like their entire channel was about just got wrecked. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna upload videos on my other channels now, and hopefully I'll see you there.